right. Welcome back, everybody, to our latest episode of The Nest. After a week off, we are back and we have a packed show today as we discuss the ongoing Red Sox season, the Bruins hiring a new coach to succeed Bruce Cassidy, and the Celtics making some moves to the roster, as well as Jaylen Brown potentially being dissatisfied with the Celtics. So we will discuss all of that. And joining me for today's episode is Rohan Venkatesh. Rohan, how are you doing?
Good as always. We are kind of in those dog days of summer, right? We're in the month of July, and we were off last week. So hope that everyone had a good 4th of July weekend, and for all of our friends north of the border, hope you all had a great Canada Day on July 1st. So yeah, hoping that you all had a good holiday, no matter which side of the border you're on. As for us, we're kind of in that time of year where there's no more basketball, no more hockey, right? Since both of those championships really wrapped up, it was kind of good to see the Avs wrap up that Stanley Cup final and knock out the Lightning. So good to see that three-peat didn't happen. But yeah, so we're basically in that time of year where it's pretty much only baseball that's the only like major thing going on. Obviously, there's other things going on, Wimbledon, etc., whatever, like other sports and stuff. But yeah, baseball's pretty much the only sport going on right now, and it's good to see that the Red Sox they've improved. In the last few weeks, they're now a playoff team. They weren't a little while ago. They weren't a playoff team, but there's still a lot to kind of be worried about. They haven't really been doing well against the division, but
yeah. Okay, we'll talk about all of that.
So
let's start talking about the Red Sox. I guess you just alluded to that. So yeah, I mean, 45-39 right now. They are playing the Yankees as we speak. They've lost 2 in a row to the Yankees so far, and they are 16 games behind the 61-23 New York Yankees. They are historically great this season, the Yankees team from this season. But I think this kind of shows the Red Sox, it's not just an issue with the New York Yankees. It's an issue with the entire AL East because they are 8-17 against the AL East so far, and they haven't won a single series against an AL East team this season, including the Orioles. So they're actually 37-22 against non-divisional teams, but the divisional record is concerning because, if they have to play Toronto in the series or maybe Tampa Bay in the series, I mean, if they even
I think they would play. They would play the Jays, right? If the playoffs began today, I think they would play the Jays, right? It would be a 3-game set.
So, yeah, because the other wild card team would play the first seed in the AL. I believe that's how the sort of new playoff format is.
I think the top wild card ends up playing the lowest seeded division winner.
Yeah, and all three of those games are going to be at the home of the top wild card.
Actually, so never mind. No, actually, I take that back. Lowest seeded division winner plays the last wild card, and then the top wild card team plays the next wild card.
But regardless of that, right? I think it's a little bit like this is sort of a problem all year, and chances are the Red Sox are going to have to play either the Rays or the Blue Jays in the wild card round because the division is pretty much sealed for the Yankees this season. I mean, they're just too many games ahead of everyone else. So that's like sort of the thing. And I'm a little concerned about that because the rotation right now, it's only Pivetta who's healthy from opening day. Evaldi, Michael Wacha, they're all injured. Josh Winkowski, I kind of like what I've seen from him, like 3-3 record, 4.35 ERA. It's sort of like, I mean, recently we've seen Winkowski. I don't really like what I've seen from Connor Siebold. He's kind of been pretty shaky so far, but overall, like it's not really a great situation.
And the bullpen's also kind of been a letdown, right?
Yeah, it's been
those early issues of like of a lead late in games not being safe that hasn't really gone away.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Whitlock is
I think the number one guy who symbolizes that is Hansel Robles. His in terms of like the number of leads that he's given up. I mean, like the moment the Red Sox are clinging onto a lead and they bring in Hansel Robles, it's okay. All right, okay. The Red Sox are going to lose. I don't even have to watch the rest of the game. It's almost that bad. I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's kind of the pessimism that's kind of set in, at least on my end.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think Hansel Robles, but he's just part of the problem, right? Like, it's Jake Diekman. He's not consistent enough. Really, besides Garrett Whitlock, who got injured and hopefully should be back soon as a reliever this time. Like, really, that's like your only consistent reliever who you really trust in late inning situations, which is going to be a problem. Look at the Yankees, right? They have so many options. Clay Holmes, who's emerged as one of the best closers in baseball this season, having a historically great season. The Yankees just have a lot of options late in the game that really kind of helped them. So that's kind of the difference. Like I think offensively, you're kind
And
of
their
similar.
offense has and their offense has been Judge, Glaber Torres, Stanton, like that.
Yeah, but I think
that
your
trio.
offense is actually pretty good too. Like the Trevor Story, I mean, he is batting 224 right now, but he has hit 50
Yeah, he
home
actually,
runs.
yeah,
Sander
yeah.
Bogarts,
Actually,
Rafael Devers.
in both losses against the Yankees, like yesterday and on Friday. I mean, and on Thursday. I mean, Trevor Story played well in both of those games. Xander Bogaerts, he's kind of been struggling. I think he's got to get his game back in order. The rest of the lineup, it's kind of been doing its job.
Christian
But
Vasquez is doing pretty good, right? This whole year.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Devers,
So
of course,
it's
has been
just,
terrific.
so I think the real issue over here is the pitching staff. And there's only so much you can do if your pitching staff isn't in order. And I think you kind of alluded to that earlier when you were kind of talking about how a lot of our staff, how Pivetta is basically the only guy from opening day who's still healthy. I'm not as worried about that though, because I don't think that these health issues are going to last for too long, and it's a long season. As long as we can get him healthy before September, October, like assuming that the Red Sox are still in playoff contention at that point. But I mean, it's still kind of crazy out there, right? Because all three wildcard teams are in the AL East. Of the 5 teams in the AL East, 4 of them are playing like better than 500 ball. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the last place wildcard team, in other words, the 4th place AL East team, might actually have a better record than one of the division winners. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think either that is the case, or they have roughly similar records, which just kind of shows you the disparity from one division to another. But I just if you got some time, just do a quick fact check on that for me. But I mean, the overall point is that the AL East is just like a stacked division, and we kind of expected this like prior to the season, but I didn't expect it to be this skewed. And you can point to the fact that the Red Sox haven't really been playing well against division opponents, but this year the AL East is just proving to be just like that crazy. Like I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, just based on what you were saying, the Toronto Blue Jays are the 4th place in the AL East. They have a 45-40 record. The Minnesota Twins, who are leading the AL Central, are actually 47-40, so slightly better, but I guess that's what you were alluding to. The other division winner are the Houston Astros, or the division leader. They're 15-5-29, so they're really good. I think right now the Astros and the Yankees have kind of separated themselves as, like, at least in the AL side of things, as the 2 best teams in American League. So it'll be interesting. I just sort of feel like this is kind of the Yankees sort of like best shot at a championship really since 2009. Like I think everything is just sort of clicking for them right now, and if they don't win it this season, I really don't know when this team's going to be able to win a World Series again. Like that's sort of just how I look at it. Like right now they're historically great. Like they're like the greatest season in baseball history, at least regular
Mariners
season
no
wise.
one.
Yeah,
I mean, anything can happen. Like regular season, yeah, it helps.
This is drawing comparisons to the 1998 Yankees team that won 114 games. I guess in recent memory, like it's a good memory for the Red Sox.
I think this Yankees team is on pace to even beat that, right?
Oh yeah, they're probably on pace to passing the 116 win Mariners team. Though of course there is a lot of baseball left to play, and you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. Like just last year, for example, the Dodgers, who won 106 games, they lost to the Atlanta Braves in the NLCS, who won 88 games. So it can happen to anyone. So, and even the Houston Astros in 2019 lost the World Series to the Washington Nationals, who won 92 games, even though the Astros that year won 107 games. So we have seen discrepancies like that before, but I mean, it'll be a tall task for anyone in the NL to beat the Yankees if it comes to that. But we'll see. I mean, I think Houston definitely has a shot to knock the Yankees out, but that's really kind of it. Like, I don't think the Red Sox have enough to beat them this year. This year, I mean, I think this is sort of like one of those years where the division is sort of out of reach already.
It's really gonna come down to who can stop the Yankees.
I think Houston has a shot. I mean, Verlander's back; he's playing great. I mean, Houston's the one team that has always kind of been the thorn to New York, but at some point, you also have to wonder.
I guess so. I mean, I mean, if the ALCS this year ends up being the Yankees and the Astros, I think America is going to have a tough time deciding which team they hate more. I mean, like,
I mean, I would have to cheer for Houston in that case. So
as painful as it is, I think yeah. I mean, the Red Sox fans would be cheering on Houston for obvious reasons, and I think the rest of the country would kind of be split down the middle.
Well, I think Dodgers, their supporters would probably cheer for the Yankees. Though I don't know, it would be interesting because it really depends on a lot of stuff going on, but it's still kind of early, so we don't really know what's going to happen right now. So that's the thing. I do want to see them,
but we are at the halfway point. We are at the halfway point.
So I want to
mean,
see. I want to see the Red Sox make some moves, though.
I mean, if this were early on in the season, okay, it's like a small sample size. Maybe this team just
the Red Sox aren't that good this year.
But at this point in the season, looking at the Yankees and where they are, like this has staying power. Like you can't. There's no way to deny that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're pretty much a lock, not for 100 wins, but you're thinking, can they win 110 games? Like, is this how good they are? I will say probably the one thing that maybe that plays into the Red Sox advantage, if they do meet them in the playoffs at some point, would be the Yankees have been so good all season. They don't really know what it's like to kind of go through adversity at this point for this season. So it's going to be one of those things, if they kind of get caught off guard.
And the Red Sox have recently had the Yankees number in the playoffs.
Yeah, so it would be interesting, but I do feel like the Red Sox, I don't know, the way the teams are playing right now, it'll be interesting going into the playoffs, like what sort of happens. But that's sort of like my takeaway about the Red Sox. I think they need to improve the bullpen. I'm actually okay with the offense. I like Xander Bogaerts, though I am a little anxious if he leaves the team this offseason. Rafael Devers has been terrific. Trevor Story, I'm a little concerned about his average. 224 is not going to cut it long term. He needs to raise that up, though he is at least able.
Well, he had a pretty terrible like first couple of months, but he's gotten hot after that. So
well, he's gonna be able to hit home runs, which isn't the problem. But I do want to see he needs to be more consistent than what he is right now. So Trevor Story is there. Alex Verdugo, batting the 250s, a little bit lower. That's the thing. Like I feel like the team is sort of underachieving a little bit compared to where they could be. But the bullpen's been the main kind of.
Verdugo's generally been doing his job. I don't think there's a lot really to complain about Verdugo's game.
But I think bullpen is one area they can definitely use. Like maybe David Robertson.
The bullpen,
David Robertson would be a nice player to add.
The bullpen has just been like pretty disastrous, and that's to use polite language on this program. I have a lot of other things I could say about the bullpen, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bullpen overall just hasn't. It's been very inconsistent. It's probably been more consistent because pretty much every time they come in, they're pretty much going to blow a lead. Though sometimes they do their job, but Jake Diekman, that's sort of what you get when you have guys like Jake Diekman, Hansel Robles.
It has to be like a 5 or 6 run lead in like the 8th inning or later. And like only those kinds of leads.
Remember that game against the Orioles back in May where they were up 8-2 in the 7th inning and lost? Like the bullpen just isn't very good, like at this point. So that is sort of one area, but that's sort of going to be like where we kind of leave the Red Sox at this point because they are tied with the Yankees 1-1 right now in the 4th inning. So we'll see if the Red Sox can at least win one game in the series. Hopefully they can win 2, but we never know.
If they win today and win tomorrow, I think they could salvage a split. It's
that would be big because right now you're 1-4 against the Yankees this season, but it's like a divisional problem. You can't beat anyone in the division, which is kind of bodes well. Thursday's game. Well.
Thursday's game was actually a winnable game. They just fell a little short. They didn't get off to a good start,
but you were down yesterday 6-0, right? So
but yesterday was pretty disastrous though, right from the get-go.
Yeah. So that's sort of going to be where we leave the Red Sox. Obviously, kind of some inconsistencies right now at this point of the season. I don't really know how good this team can be, but you never know. In the playoffs, maybe you kind of hope that they can flip a switch and get on some magical run. Though I don't know.
All it takes is to get hot at the right time. That's really all it takes.
I don't know. I just feel like last year kind of like was sort of like
the Braves got hot at the right time.
I don't know if it's just going to happen 2 years in a row where they just sort of flip the switch. If they do, then great on them. But I don't have much confidence this year. But you never know. I guess we'll have to see. But that'll sort of be where we leave the Red Sox. Let's talk about the Bruins now a little bit. Jim Montgomery, he was hired by the Bruins back on June 30th. I don't know a lot about him, but I mean, he was the assistant coach for the St. Louis Blues. He was hired by the Dallas Stars to be a head coach back in 2018, but he was fired in December of 2019 by the Stars for unprofessional conduct. And then the Blues hired him in September of 2020. So it does sound like Cassidy lost the Bruins locker room, especially the past few seasons. So Montgomery is someone who I guess they're hoping can kind of connect with the team. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this.
I got mixed thoughts about this.
Great job as a coach, and Montgomery definitely he's going to have a high bar because Bruce Cassidy never missed the playoffs while he was a Bruins coach. Jim Montgomery pretty much has to carry that on now in order for the Bruins to really even justify letting go of Cassidy, which I don't ever really got. Like, I mean, I think Cassidy every season did well.
I kind of have a feeling that the Bruins may have had performance issues, but a lot of that had to do with their aging core.
And how is that
Like
Cassidy's fault? I mean, sure, to an extent, maybe we can blame him for some of the
and
shortcomings.
I guess I guess like Bruce Cassidy was expected to kind of keep bringing them to like the conference finals or the finals every single year after after you took them to the finals against the Blues. But after those like couple of years where it was like a first round exit, a second round exit,
He only had one first round exit, right?
Yeah, like but
After the Blues,
I kind of feel like Bruce Cassidy kind of unfairly became like the fall guy.
But you're talking about first round exit. So after they lost to the Blues, they lost in the second round in 2020 to Tampa. 2021, they lost to the Islanders in second round. They only had one first round exit, and that was this past year against the Hurricanes.
So
he
yeah,
did really well.
Especially when you put it that way. I mean, it makes the firing sound even more harsh. I think this is one of those like make a change for the sake for change's sake without actually thinking about like what the actual issues were. I mean, at this point, for all you know, Jim Montgomery might turn out to be a great coach. Who knows, right? I have no idea. I don't know.
I mean, it seemed like he did okay with the Stars. He took them to the playoffs, but I mean, it's just a high bar now because now you fire Bruce Cassidy, who took you to a Stanley Cup final. And if Jim Montgomery like can't even reach the finals at some point in his tenure as a Bruins coach, then this looks really bad. Obviously, it's still very early, but
well, I mean, to be fair, that's pretty much any coach that comes to Boston, right? If you don't deliver on championships in like a few years, you're gone. Like that's just how harsh the Boston market is.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at throughout the landscape of the teams, pretty much all the coaches at some point who have been tenured for more than 4 or 5 years probably have been to a final.
I mean, I like getting fired by Boston is almost like a rite of passage at this point because I don't like nobody survives in Boston for that long.
Except Bill Belichick, maybe between 2004 and 2014.
The grand exception to that rule.
But he had also won 3 Super Bowls at that point. So maybe that was like the one exception I can say.
Yeah, and then there was like that. But then like there was that 10-year drought in between the two.
Yeah, but they also went to 2 Super Bowls in that span. So that's a little.
But also in that span, they went to 2 Super Bowls and they went to like a ton of AFC championships during that time.
Yeah, and I think you could say the same thing here, right? For Bruce Cassidy, like I mean, he didn't win a championship, so he didn't have that.
But imagine,
I mean, he did well.
But imagine, but just imagine, like if like in 2009 or 2010, like if Robert Kraft just says, I've had it, I've had enough of this guy, and just like, if he just decides to boot Bill Belichick, like imagine like how the course of history would have been altered if something like that had taken place.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm not like a big onto firing Cassidy. I mean, I don't know. I think they did it not for the sake of it. I think they did it because they felt he no longer connected with the locker room, which always kind of like sounds like some kind of excuse that the team just isn't performing.
Then if that's the thing, then I think that then the firing might have also been a little politically motivated as well. Usually when you hear stuff like, oh, they weren't getting along with the team, or when you hear stuff like that, it's usually not about actual substance or actual performance.
Yeah, it's usually just an excuse
they fell out of favor. They fell out of favor with someone who was influential. There was probably some sort of power struggle, and he became pretty much a fall guy in the internal politics of the organization.
Yeah, so that's why I'm sort of not like, I don't know. I mean, I feel Montgomery, he needs to be graded very kind of on a high bar now. Like there's a high bar for the Bruins to really like see the Jim Montgomery hiring as a success. Now, if all of a sudden like next year they're in the Stanley Cup final, like or in the Eastern Conference Finals, yeah, then maybe this is a good move. But if they lose in like round 1 again next year, then you'll be like, why did you fire Bruce Cassidy, who literally lost in round 1 just twice in his tenure? And this guy's already lost. Like, so I mean, it's going to be a little different, right? So I feel we need to grade Montgomery on a high bar.
Assuming the same core players does stick around.
But that's going to be what happens, right? Like Bergeron's probably coming back now.
Yeah, Bergeron is he did confirm that he's coming back for another year.
And isn't it interesting, like that Bergeron was so indecisive before Cassidy got fired? Now he's already kind of confirming. Isn't it kind of like the most influential player on the Bruins is probably the one who drove this firing?
If you want to speculate and say that Bergeron was somehow behind it, I guess.
Oh, he was definitely part of it. I mean, I'm sure Bergeron, the longest tenure Bruin, has no say on who the next coach would be or who the current coach is. Like Bergeron, of course, was unhappy about the situation.
But typically, the coaches are more powerful than the players, though, because the coaches get to decide who plays, who doesn't play, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's
I mean,
what
think
makes
about it, right? For the players,
firing even more
for,
shocking.
for the players, the coach is their boss. Like they report to the coach, like he is their boss, like, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I see what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, I think overall, I think Bergeron and probably the rest of the Bruins team probably had significant impact on this decision to move on from Cassidy and probably to hire Montgomery. I think Montgomery, I
it
don't really
must have
know
been, it must
much.
have been some sort of mutiny. Like I can't help but think that this is some sort of mutiny.
That's possible, but yeah, that's sort of going to be how we sort of look at. That's how we should look at Jim Montgomery going forward. I want him to do well, but at the same time, he should also be held to pretty high criteria as well, because Bruce Cassidy did an excellent job, I thought, as a Bruins coach. So I mean, that's how we have to view Jim Montgomery. Like, he can't miss the playoffs. If he misses the playoffs, and this is even more of a kind of like what we sort of like, then I think Cam Neely, especially him, I think his job should be on the line if they miss the playoffs now, because Bruce Cassidy is now in Vegas. And if Vegas goes on a deep run and the Bruins flounder, then that's going to look really, really bad on Cam Neely and Don Sweeney as well. So
yeah,
I think the pressure is really on not just Jim Montgomery, but also Cam Neely and Don Sweeney as well, because you let go an excellent head coach. And that's how I sort of view it now at this point. Like, it's not a very, like, I think the bar is high. And, and at times before, like, we thought firing John Farrell was the wrong move for the Red Sox in 2017. Turns out it was the right move, because Alex Cora has been excellent. But
yeah,
unless
because
that's more than what happens now.
I mean, more than firing someone, it really depends on, like, but who are you going to replace them with?
Well, I guess it worked for
mean,
the other teams, like Brad Stevens, right? They didn't fire him. But they basically
Brad Stevens
him.
got promoted. He got promoted.
And then, but basically they moved on from Brad Stevens as head coach, and then Udoka comes in year one to make the finals. That's sort of the jump you now have to kind of see from the Bruins next season to really justify this, to get to the final, get to the conference finals. Like, you have to be like, if they're like the President's Trophy winner next year, that's really something you can kind of go
but also
build on.
But also, like, I don't even know if the Bruins knew who they were gonna hire when they decided to fire Bruce Cassidy.
Think so, right? Because it took them a month over.
I don't think they really had any kind of succession plan. I think they just kind of wanted to get rid of Bruce Cassidy for the sake of getting rid of him.
I don't know if it's about getting rid of him for the sake, but it's clear that he didn't mesh with the organization, right? For whatever reason. So
not meshing with the organization is usually code for, like, we didn't like this guy or some other political motive.
Well, exactly. But that's what I'm trying to say. He clearly didn't get along with Cam Neely or Don Sweeney, right? And probably both. That's probably why, like, difference in vision on the team going forward, all that stuff. So again, I'm just saying the bar for Jim Montgomery is going to be high, because it's not just going to be about, like, making the playoffs. Like, I mean, if he doesn't get to a Stanley Cup final in like a couple of years, you're going to be looking at this going forward. Of course, he's kind of handling like a mini rebuild, so we'll have to adjust a little bit of expectation. But I am a little kind of, I haven't really liked the Bruce Cassidy firing. And this, I mean, I think Montgomery seems like a pretty solid coach, but he has a lot to prove. That's sort of how we're going to have to grade him, at least next season.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how things go. I think they just released the schedule for next season, and it looks like the Bruins opening game is going to be October 12th against the Caps in DC. So it looks like I think the NHL just released the schedule like yesterday or something like that. But looking forward to next season whenever it does start.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I think the Bruins, it'll be interesting to see how they do the season though. Like, but yeah, I mean, I think we will have to grade Montgomery pretty highly. Like, we'll have to sort of put him on a high bar. That's all I'm going to say all season, next season. So yeah, that'll sort of be our Bruins talk. Let's talk about the Celtics now. There's been a lot to discuss since the NBA Finals. Obviously, we talked about them needing to improve, and that's what they did. They acquired Malcolm Brogdon from the Indiana Pacers for a 2023 first-round pick, which is top 12 protected. Nick Stauskas, Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, Juwan Morgan, and Malik Fitz. And here's the thing. So Brogdon does have an injury-prone label. He only played 36 games last season.
I'm not sure if I like getting rid of Daniel Tice.
Why? He barely played in the playoffs.
Yeah, but he did have important contributions during the season.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, you can, I mean, I will say, like, I think moving on from Tice, the one area might hurt is having a backup big man. But I think they sort of have a plan in place. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think I'm okay with it overall. I think Brogdon, 19.1 points last season, 5 rebounds, 5.9 assists per game. So he's pretty good. I mean, he's a playmaker and he does have the injury prone label, but I mean, he's going to be a backup behind Marcus Smart. And I like that pairing. Brogdon and Smart, both very kind of smart defensive players mindset. I like it overall. So I really like the move to get Brogdon. And also they added Danilo Gallinari, though that's not official yet. And Gallinari's a very good shooter, and he played for the Hawks last season, 11 points a game, 38% on 3-pointers, which is a little bit on the lower end. But I think the Celtics overall, what they've shown us, they're not satisfied with how last season went overall, getting to the finals. They want to really go and try to win it next season. And that's big because the 76ers.
That's the only possible improvement at this point. I mean,
yeah, but I think it's big because the rest of the
Celtics,
East made
I personally think that Celtics like vastly overachieved last year.
Yeah, so now like I think your core is still there, right? Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Robert Williams III. So I think at this point, like seeing that the Bucks made moves, Bobby Portis.
It took a Warriors team to finally do the Celtics in. I mean, they were able to get past Milwaukee. They were able to sweep Brooklyn. I mean, like that's no joke.
Yeah. But yeah, I think overall, like, 76ers signed PJ Tucker this offseason, so they got better. The Bucks re-signed Bobby Portis and Joe Ingles. So at this point, like, I mean, the rest
Sixers,
of the East is getting better.
I think Sixers, I mean, if Joel Embiid stays healthy, I mean, I think they're the team to beat.
I don't know about that, the team to beat, but I mean, there will be a team to beat. I won't say they're the team to beat, but
I think it's going to be the Sixers.
Even like after the moves the Celtics made.
Yeah.
So you're having with who?
Yeah.
76ers against two.
I'd say either the Bucks or the Celtics.
Wait, you're talking about the finals though.
I'm the Eastern Conference Finals. That's
about the
kind of
finals?
what I'm seeing. Finals, that's really too much to say at this point, but I think it's got to be either like the Suns or the Warriors in the West, or I actually no, never mind. I got to go with the Nuggets. I think it's going to be the Nuggets.
So Denver, Philadelphia. Okay, I mean that's an interesting finals. I mean it could happen, but it's too early to really tell at this point. And the Sixers have
and there's way more and there is way more parity in the NBA like compared to previous years. So it's definitely got a lot more unpredictable in that sense.
So there is one thing we do want to talk about for the Celtics, and this is kind of something that was raised on the Greg Hill show on WEEI. Current radio host and former Patriots tight end Jermaine Wiggins. He said that Jaylen Brown doesn't want to be the second option on the Celtics and wants to leave. Basically, that's what paraphrasing what Wiggins was trying to say. And I will just say this because this is probably going to be popping up a lot more now about Kevin Durant since he did demand a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. I would still not do the trade for Kevin Durant, even with Jaylen Brown being dissatisfied. Just being the reason that
no KD, no thank you.
No, I just think at this point,
I was pretty vocal about this on the last episode.
Yeah, and even if Jaylen Brown is dissatisfied, I think Kevin Durant at this point is going to be 34 years old. How many more seasons of elite Kevin Durant can he be? And I also don't like how every time it gets a little tough for Kevin Durant, he tries to leave the team. Like this is going to be a big problem for the Celtics then. Like if there's ever any adversity, is Kevin Durant just going to quit then at that point? Like is that what's going to happen? Like I just don't like this mindset. He's a great player, obviously, but I mean, if you really look at his career now, and it's really kind of like telling because it's been a couple seasons since he left Golden State. His only championships are with the Golden State Warriors, who already at that point had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and just won a championship without him. So at this point, it's really kind of like he joined a team that didn't really need him in the long term to win. I mean, obviously, I do think they needed him to beat LeBron James because I don't think the Celtics were at that level of what LeBron James's Cavaliers were. But at the same time, you kind of look and see like the Warriors without him made it to the finals. They won a championship before he was there. They won a championship after he was there. So at this point, it's kind of like Kevin Durant. I mean, what has he really done as the lead guy on the team? It's really not that impressive. I mean, he did make it to a finals in 2012 where they lost to the Heat. But besides that,
he would definitely add a lot of value he would definitely add a lot of value to a mediocre-ish team. But knowing Kevin Durant, he would not want to go to a mediocre team. Yeah, he would very likely go to a team that doesn't need him.
If I'm Brooklyn too, I'm not trading Kevin Durant. I'd be trying to move Kyrie Irving's, probably move him to the Lakers, see if Russell Westbrook for Kyrie Irving. At least that would be kind of interesting because then Brooklyn has a Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook pairing again that Oklahoma City had, though they are now 6 years older. So it would be kind of interesting to see that. But besides that, I really don't think Brooklyn should just acquiesce to Kevin Durant's like desire to make a trade because he's still under contract for 4 more years. So I would still not do the trade for Kevin Durant. I mean, I still think I would sit down with Jaylen Brown if I'm Brad Stevens and the Celtics organization, stress to him how important he is to the organization and the team, and really hope that, I mean, him and Jason Tatum are kind of the cornerstones for an eventual championship team in Boston. That's really what I would really want, more than anything at this point if I'm the Celtics. I wouldn't do the trade for Kevin Durant. I would try to make sure Jaylen Brown is as happy as possible in Boston, because I don't want to do the trade.
I'm really hoping that this is all just gossip. I can only hope. But
Yeah,
usually
I
when you
mean,
hear stories like this, it's usually because they know something that the rest of us don't.
also Jaylen Brown
Um,
did like a tweet where someone said that he was disrespected by Celtics fans. So that is something to kind of keep an eye on. He actually liked a tweet where people said, where someone said that.
I don't know. I mean, like the Celtics fans generally like Jaylen Brown. I don't know why he would feel disrespected. Could
Well,
it
I
be
think
that
it's
he
because Jason Tatum
could
is
he,
considered the
like
top
did like
option,
yeah
right?
like did he basically feel like second fiddle to Jason Tatum?
That's probably what it is, right? I mean, think about it. In the NBA Finals, he had a better finals than Tatum. But even when the Celtics were up 2-1, people were talking about Jason Tatum winning Finals MVP, not Jaylen Brown. Even when it was 2-1 Celtics at the time. So I think that's one of the things, right?
I mean, from what I remember, there was a lot of talk also at the time that Jason Tatum has been vastly underperforming.
That was true too, but that was kind of what happened after the final 3 games. That was more of a story after the 3 games, right? When they were 2-1, it was
Yeah.
like, oh, look, Tatum, even as not at his best, he's still able to lead the team to 2-1 record and stuff like that, right? So that's something we have to kind of keep an eye on. It is something worth noting because you never know with a lot of the NBA players. Oftentimes, how they'll sort of act over time, or like what they'll sort of want all of a sudden if it changes drastically. We've seen this several times happen before. So this
Yeah.
is something to kind of monitor. But I mean, I hope it's not a big story, but you never know. You really never know like what's going to happen in this league.
Yeah, I guess I kind of see what you're saying with that, but assuming Jaylen Brown stays, yeah, I guess the loss of Daniel Tice does kind of it might
Oh
hurt the team a
no,
little bit.
the
but,
loss of Daniel
but,
Tice is not going to be a major.
but overall, I think this team is positioned better for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in a good shape. I mean, they should probably be like a top seed next year. I mean, considering they were 18-21 last season and they finished at the 2 seed in the end of the East. I mean, next year they should probably make a run at 60 games at least. I mean, they won 51 games last season. They should probably be like a 60-win team this season, maybe even like 63, 64. Not that it really matters as much, but they really should but it could help them to have home court for the entire playoffs this time, rather than having not home court against the Heat and then against the Warriors in the finals. So, I mean, that could help too, having home court for like critical games. Not that it really mattered for them last year because they won on the road several times, but I think the Celtics are still in a pretty good spot. They're in a really good spot going forward. I mean, whether or not they'll make it back to the finals next year is like, who knows? But I do think that they're in a good position to kind of get back there again. So that's sort of what like you can really hope for at this point. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of how I look at the Celtics. I would not do the trade for Kevin Durant, even if Jaylen Brown is not happy. I would try my best to convince Jaylen Brown to stay here long term in Boston. That's what I would really strongly emphasize. But we'll have to see what happens. I guess we'll have to follow the story as the offseason kind of progresses. But yeah, that's sort of all I had sort of for this week's episode. Rohan, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, we'll just watch the rest of the summer unfold and see how the Red Sox season unfolds, and then when we get time for fall, then the Patriots are going to
Gridiron is back. Mac Jones year 2.
Yep, we'll have to see how that goes.
And we'll be doing episodes in August about our NFL preview. We'll be talking.
And
about
I'm excited. It's got to be an exciting calendar year, right? So many things going on. I mean, you got the World Cup coming up in November. I mean, other sports as well. I mean, you got that England India the cricket series going on right now, and the T20 World Cup coming up later this year as well. So lots and lots of events coming up like across the sports spectrum. So we're gonna have a full range of analysis, full range of coverage for all of you out there. So it's gonna be a packed 2022, even though we're a little bit more than halfway through the year, but I think the second half's gonna be pretty good.
Definitely. Yeah. So that'll be it for this week. We will be back next week again to recap the week in Boston sports. Until then, have a good one, everyone.
All right. Peace.